That being said, let's go through some news. I'm a bit late today, but there is always some last-minute preparations to make sure that I'm not gonna miss some breaking news for this morning. So, okay, uh, I guess that's enough for an intro, and let's start today's news segment, dear friends, with this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on Russian Defense Ministry's latest update that overnight air defense systems on duty intercepted 55 drones that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky to strike deep into Russian territory with assistance of NATO, of course. So I can give you some specifics. 34 drones were intercepted over the Rostov region, and according to some reports that I see, dear friends, unfortunately there was casualties in the Rostov region. Later on, we will have more update on that, and of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X page during the next live stream that will most likely start at 7 p.m. this evening. 7 drones were intercepted over the Black Sea, 6 drones over the Voronezh region, 3 drones over the Lipetsk and Krasnodar Krai, 2 drones over the Crimea. In response, Russian armed forces conducted retaliatory strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime. And on this topic, I have this report, for example, that also from RIA Novosti news agency, that Russian armed forces destroyed underground workshops for the production of Ukrainian missiles. So Russian military struck underground munition production facilities in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This information is coming from coordinator of pro-Russian partisans in Nikolaev region, Sergei Lebedev, Pavlograd and their Pavlograd district. Destruction of their production facilities, including underground workshops where missiles are manufactured. In several cases, drones actively was observed targeting fuel and munition storage facilities also and communication centers. Lebedev reported during his conversation with RIA Novosti. In addition, the fighters of the Russian armed forces struck the workshops of Ukrainian armed forces, aircraft repair plant in Kharkov, where aircraft-type drones were also assembled. The day before, a Ukrainian media reported on a series of explosions in a region. So, as you can see, the friends, Russian armed forces literally on daily basis are conducting these long-range precise strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime, on energy infrastructure, and quite successfully, I will say. Also, dear friends, we have this update about battlefield situation. Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Lenina in a DPR. And when it comes to battle map update, let me give you some short summary, dear friends. I will start with Kherson region. And we have more confirmations about progress of the Russian armed forces in Karabel district. I was reporting for quite a while now about advances of the Russian armed forces on this district of the Kherson, which is, as you can see, dear friends, is isolated from main body of the city, and their fights are going on in this district. And the Saldo, by the way, governor of Kherson region, also reported about it. So Russian soldiers are fighting to liberate the Karabel neighborhood on Quarantine Island. Kherson region governor Vladimir Saldo told RIA Novosti the island is a combat control zone for the Dnipro group of forces. All true enemy fighters continue to hide in residential and industrial buildings on its territory. However, our troops are closely monitoring the situation, striking and destroying identified targets. So basically, some small groups of Kiev regime's forces probably are still hiding somewhere in this quite a large part of this island, by the way, that is urbanized, and it's an industrial zone, as you can see, dear friends, massive industrial zones, and also high-rise apartment buildings, blocks here. And there is a lot of places where some small groups of Kiev regime's forces can hide for the time being, but Russian armed forces basically finalizing clearing operation in this area. And this is not all. Yesterday, I reported, dear friends, about further progress of the Russian armed forces on the right bank of the Dnieper River. And reports were that Kiev regime's forces were retreating from Sadova settlement that you see right now on your screen. And I predicted yesterday that probably soon we will hear reports from military expert military channels that these settlements, Sadova and Pokrovsk, are under Russian control and liberated. And that's exactly what happened yesterday late evening. Number of channels reported exactly about this. Defense Ministry did not yet confirmed. Russian Defense Ministry did not yet confirm this progress of the Russian armed forces on the right bank of the Dnieper River. Maybe today or tomorrow we will receive a confirmation of this information once a clearing operation will be finalized. But as you can see, Russian troops are step by step, without any hurry, but are beginning to liberate Kherson right bank of the Dnieper River in the Kherson region, and this progress will of course continue. Also, dear friends, next is Zaporizhia sector, and we had quite interesting reports that Russian armed forces conducted surprise armored attack on Malaya Takmachka settlement and advanced quite significantly, and Russian tanks were spotted about in the middle of the settlement, by the way, which is, I will argue, significant progress. Maybe before end of this day, maybe tomorrow, we will receive some more information, and who knows, it is well possible that Kiev regime's forces will just run away from this settlement, and in that case we're going to receive video confirmations of the settlement Malaya Takmachka being liberated by Russian troops. But when it comes to Zaporizhia region, of course, one of the main strongholds of the Kiev regime at this point is Gulyai Pole settlement, relatively large town, and the Russian troops are getting closer and closer to cut main supply and support line of the Kiev regime's forces in Gulyai Pole. Advances are in Zaporizhia region itself on the most eastern flank, and I already reported about the progress of the Russian armed forces in Poltavka area, in Okhotniche area, in Novonikolaevka, Novovasilovskaya directions, and there soon Russian Defense Ministry most likely will report that these two settlements, Novovasilovskaya and Novonikolaevka, are under Russian control too, and the Russian troops advancing towards this main supply and support line of the Kiev regime's forces in Gulyai Pole, in Dnipropetrovsk region also, and reports are coming in about progress of the Russian armed forces in direction of Zlagada settlement, and I guess before end of this day, today, Russian troops will establish full control over this settlement. Also, yesterday I reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in Privolye area, which is also Dnipropetrovsk, and just take a look at the map, dear friends. Everything that you see on the left side of this red line here is Dnipropetrovsk region, and it's quite significant bridgehead that Russian armed forces have established in this region. And we should keep in mind, dear friends, that unlike DPR, for example, Dnipropetrovsk region is not that urbanized, right? It's a steppe area mainly. And once Russian forces will finalize battles for DPR, if order comes, by the way, I'm quite sure Russian troops will liberate Dnipropetrovsk region in a much shorter time that battles were taking place for liberation of DPR. Exactly because Dnipropetrovsk region is not that fortified by Kiev regime. They were focused, and NATO, they were mainly focused on DPR, LPR, right? And secondly, Dnipropetrovsk region is not that urbanized as it is the case in Donetsk People's Republic, for example. And when it comes to DPR, dear friends, let me give you an update on this also. And the reports are that Russian armed forces established control over the Molodetskaya settlement, or Lenina, I already mentioned this, right on the border with Dnipropetrovsk region. Also, reports are coming in about finalizing cleaning operation in Udachное settlement. This is all western flank of Pokrovsk, Mirnograd agglomeration. When it comes to Pokrovsk itself, by the way, some very significant developments are happening in this city. For example, According to reports, Russian forces were spotted in this part of the city, almost most northern part basically, right? And that means that this main supply and support line that Kiev regime's garrison had in Pokrovsk is under direct Russian fire control, and Russian troops were also spotted in this place, in this industrial area, right next to a railway, which means, by the way, that everything that you see south of this line, from this point to this point, is under operational control of the Russian armed forces, and very little basically is left from a northern part of Pokrovsk that is need to be liberated. It's a Dachi area basically, also heavily urbanized, but seems like the regime's garrison is collapsing in Pokrovsk, and it might not take even more than a couple of days before Kiev regime's forces will run away from the city. And once this will happen, we should expect a rapid withdrawal or run of Kiev regime's forces from Mirnograd, neighboring town. Also, and when it comes to Mirnograd, today we are receiving reports that Russian forces established control over the Promin settlement on the eastern flank of Mirnograd. So also significant progress is happening in this direction. Yesterday, I believe I mentioned that Russian armed forces began liberating Shakhova settlement on the eastern flank of this breakthrough area that Russian armed forces achieved about a month ago on the northern side of Pokrovsk, Mirnograd. No, some major changes in Konstantinovka direction, some positional battles and there are skirmishes between the sides, but initiative is in Russian hands. When it comes to Seversk, dear friends, there are no major updates in regards to Seversk, but we have updates in regards to Liman. And according to reports, Russian armed forces began conducting operations to liberate Stavki settlement on the northern side of Liman. This is the area, by the way. Also, yesterday I did report about progress of the Russian armed forces in Yarovaya direction and also in direction of Novovasilievka and Dirilova settlements. And once these operations will be finalized and these settlements are under Russian control, one might argue that Liman garrison will be in operational encirclement, and it well might be that Russian troops will liberate Liman first and Seversk after that. Maybe, just saying. And so this is it for a short summary, dear friends, for this moment. Of course, if you want some more details about these developments on the battle map on the battlefield, I recommend mappers, by the way, for that, military channels. They are, of course, providing much greater volume of information about some detailed changes on the battlefield. And when it comes to Seversk Liman direction, your friends, it's a kind of Bermuda Triangle now for enemy forces, and TASS news agency is reporting exactly about that. Let me give you some details. So the area between Stavki, Kirovsk, and Krasny Liman in the Donetsk People's Republic has become a point of no return for 63rd Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, with the front on the Ukrainian side looming. Russian security agencies are collapsing, basically. Kiev regime's defense lines there. Russian security agencies reported this to TASS news agency, citing radio interceptions. And we have quotes here. The militants are suffering massive losses and are desperate. Their area between the villages of Stavki, Kirovsk, and Krasny Liman has become a Bermuda Triangle for the 63rd Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the mass grave for Ukrainian soldiers, the agency's source said. He emphasized that the panic reigns in the ranks of the Ukrainian Armed Forces brigade and that the collapse of the front in the Krasny Liman direction is approaching. And also, the source noted that artillery and the drones from 25th Army of the Zapad group of forces harass Ukrainian soldiers around the clock. and any movement by militants is targeted by field artillery and FPV drones almost immediately. So, I mean, no surprisingly, advances of the Russian forces in this direction is this significant, because seems like Kiev regime's defense lines clearly are crumbling, and they're soon probably will completely collapse. And also, dear friends, very interesting, important news, I think, that is coming from Kharkov region. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that some 600 foreign mercenaries, 600, by the way, foreign mercenaries were liquidated in the Kharkov region as a result of intelligence gathering and DRG operations of Irishman unit. And don't be surprised, by the way, unit of Russian armed forces is actually called Irishman. So the commander of the Irishman strike force, call sign Joker, spoke about successful operation that resulted in the destruction of around 600 foreign mercenaries of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kharkov region, in the Kharkov area, city itself. Joker told RT military correspondent Philip Prokudin that the unit's fighters were conducting in-depth reconnaissance and decided to head to specific location based on the intelligence they received. And we have quote here: we conducted a deep reconnaissance and decided based on intelligence to go to a specific location where, to our great fortune, there was a fairly large mercenary camp, he noted. Russian armed forces personnel quickly made the decision and struck the enemy when they were not expecting an attack, Joker added, and as a result, allegedly, some 600 mercenaries, foreign mercenaries, that are fighting on behalf of this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky were neutralized. I mean, quite a big number, isn't it? Quite a bigger number. No details in this report. Were these mercenaries from Colombia or some other Latin American countries, or from Western countries? Maybe today, maybe in upcoming days, we will learn some more about this particular operation. And of course, I will share additional information on that. But clearly, I mean, big success, by the way, to locate a training camp or concentration point of this many enemy troops and eliminate them with precise strikes. That's quite something.
Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.